The PSVR 2 just released at the tail end of February, and it is my first real look at VR. I was really impressed by it. If you want to check out my full review of the experience, I have a video about it, link down below. Speaking of links down below, if there's anything in this video that you want to pick up, there will be links down below that you can use, so make sure you check out that description. One question I've seen a lot of people ask about PSVR 2 is, should you buy the Pulse Audio headset to go with it? If you don't know, PlayStation has their own headset called the PlayStation 5 Pulse 3D wireless headset. The PS5 is $500 for the disc version. The PSVR 2 is $550. And if you want to pick up the first-party headset to go with your PSVR 2, that's another $100, bringing the grand total of Sony's next-gen VR solution to $1,150. So the question is, should you go with Sony's first-party solution? Or is there something better out there? This video is brought to you by Grid Studio. If you've watched my content for any length of time, then I'm sure that you've noticed my love of retro consoles. I love collecting old gaming hardware, from the Virtual Boy to my Asteroids Deluxe arcade cabinet. I was really excited when Grid Studios reached out to me because they make some fantastic shadow box wall art for old gadgets. Here's my original Game Boy, DMG 001, and this is the Grid Game Boy. These days, I can just emulate those games on my Steam Deck. Don't tell Nintendo. And rather than having a Game Boy sitting somewhere rotting in a corner that isn't working anyway, Grid Studios turns them into art. I absolutely love how they broke all of the parts out of the Game Boy and put each one in its own small space on this shadow box with a little explanation to what it does. I think it looks fantastic, and I'm super happy having this thing on my wall. But if the Game Boy isn't your jam, they have plenty of other shadow boxes to choose from, like phones, other game consoles, watches, computers, and even microchips from Apple. So if you want to check these out for yourself, you can support the channel by heading on over to gridstudios.cc, or you can just use my link down in the description. Huge thank you to Grid Studios for supporting their channel and for finding something useful to do with old, broken hardware. Let's rewind a bit. Back in 2020, Mark Cerny stood behind a podium and gave us all an epically long breakdown of what they were going to be doing with the PS5. I feel like at the time, most people focused on the high-speed storage, which made a lot of sense. It was a really impressive demo, and it showed a significant upgrade over the PS4 in terms of load times. Just in case you didn't know, you can't just use any drive with the PS5. If you want to play PS5 games, you need a super fast M.2 drive for really fast read and write speeds. It is absolutely an upgrade that you want to have for the PS5 because the storage available to the end user on the included drive is actually pretty small. Since I'll probably be buying a bunch of PSVR 2 games and Sony recently stepped things up when it comes to PS Plus, I recently expanded my storage. This is the one I use. It's the Patriot Viper 2TB drive. It comes with an aluminum heat shield as well as a graphene one. There's plenty of room in the PS5 for the aluminum heat shield, so that's the one I ended up using. And if you want to see a video reviewing this drive, make sure you leave a comment down below. Back to Mark Cerny. Near the end of his video, he talked at length about audio and the PS5 and how they were going to use the new chip in the PS5 to handle audio. It's called Tempest Audio, and it gave the PS5 the ability to have a ton of individual audio sources during gameplay. This, plus a pair of headphones, can make you feel really immersed in the world pretty quickly, and you can pinpoint where a sound is coming from, which can give you an edge in gaming. Audio is really an important part of gaming, but I'd say it's even more important to the immersive experience of VR. I mean, we're playing VR to be totally immersed in another world, which is why I was pretty disappointed that Sony decided to go with lower price in-ear solution for the PSVR 2. I mean, the PSVR 2 is pretty expensive. I'll argue that it is impressive for what you're spending, but $550 is $550. And after a couple of weeks with the PSVR 2, I can say that I've detached the included earbuds and gone with an over-the-ear solution. So I have 4 options available to me when it comes to audio on the PSVR 2. I have my Audio-Technica ATH M50X, which are my go-to headphones every day. They're my daily drivers and I adore them. the SteelSeries Arctis Wireless Pro, which I've had for years, the PlayStation Pulse 3D audio, and of course the built-in earbuds that come with your PSVR 2. When you're playing VR games, you've already got one thing strapped to your head, so strapping another thing to your head probably isn't that big of a deal. But whatever it is that you're attaching to your head, you want it to be comfortable and you want it to feel invisible. You want to be able to forget that you're playing VR. You want to just be immersed in the world around you. Because of this, comfort is really important. Now, what I did notice that any of the over-ear headphones that I wore with the PSVR 2 required me to wear them on my ears instead of over my ears. This is because the headband on the VR kind of got in the way. So they usually sit a little bit lower on my head than usual. It wasn't uncomfortable, but it definitely is different than when you're just wearing the headphones without a VR2 helmet. Let's start with my SteelSeries Arctis Pro Wireless. These are absolutely a premium headset, and they're made out of metal, which means they do have some heft to them. They use a ski band style head strap to keep that metal off of your head. It works great, but I always felt like I was searching for the sweet spot with that headband. Their included ear cups are pretty good, but I ended up replacing them with Wicked Cushion ear cups for just a bit more comfort. The biggest drawback to the Audio-Technica headset is that there's a wire, and it's a pretty long wire. You might think that you could solve this by getting a really short audio wire, but the ATH M50X doesn't take a normal 3.5 audio jack, so getting one that is the right length, that's short enough, and has the right connectors is going to be problematic. Secondly, the ear cups that come with the Audio-Technicas are honestly pretty terrible. I've replaced mine with these ones from, again, Wicked Cushions. They are far softer than the ones that come with the ATH, and they fit my ears better. I would venture to say that Sony designed the PSVR 2 and the Pulse Audio to be compatible together, so you would expect these would be the most comfortable. I think that of all of the over-the-ear options, these are by far the lightest, almost so light that they feel cheap. The premium feeling versus the lightness is absolutely a trade-off that you may or may not be willing to make. But of all of the over-the-ear headsets, most of the time, these are the ones that, to me, become invisible the best. They're the ones that disappear. That is, unless you're playing Horizon Call of the Mountain, where you're constantly climbing in that game and you tend to look up. And as you look up, the headset starts to slide backwards. And I had to reach up and adjust it over and over again. And that's definitely a problem because you have these controllers strapped to your hand and constantly making adjustments to your headphones because you're looking up is kind of a pain in the rear. Now, obviously, the most comfortable solution would be no headphones at all, but Sony didn't include speakers on the PSVR 2, so I suppose the winner in the category of comfort has to be the in-ear headphones that come with your PSVR 2, unless you don't like in-ear headphones, which I'm generally not a fan of, with the exception of my AirPod Pros. I really like those. I feel like they're very, very comfortable. Audio quality is really important for immersion, which is why I was disappointed in the in-ear headphones. I'd say of all of these options, they're probably the worst. I wouldn't say that they're bad headphones, but when you compare the size of the drivers in these to the ones in the bigger cans, you just can't make a good comparison. There's no chance that these could stand up to over-the-ear headphones. In my opinion, the Audio-Technica headset has the best audio quality. That's because audio is all that these are designed for. They are professional studio monitors with a really flat frequency response. So every penny that you are putting towards these headphones is going to the audio. There's no microphone, no wireless, no battery, very little marketing. It's just audio. The SteelSeries sound great, but for its price, it better sound great. It was over $300 when I bought them, so the audio had better be fantastic, and it is. But it's also the most complicated to set up. You have to hook it up via USB to your PS5, and if you want to take advantage of the 3D audio, you'll also need to use optical audio out. Sony's Pulse 3D audio headset actually sounds really good, way better than a $100 headset should sound in my opinion. But when you compare it to the Audio-Technicas or the SteelSeries, it just isn't in the same league. But if you're looking at price, of the three of the over-the-ear headsets that I'm testing, these are the cheapest and they are designed with PSVR in mind. Now, some of you might not realize that PSVR 2 has a built-in microphone, which means the microphone on these headphones isn't super important when you're using them for VR. But you may not only be using this headset in VR. In fact, you're probably using it all the time that you're using your PS5. There's plenty of games that you can play on your TV on your PS5, and you want to be able to use these as well. So first off, the DualSense controller has a built-in microphone as well. It's going to be far from your face, and it's going to sound terrible, really terrible. The Audio-Technica headset doesn't have a microphone at all. You can get around this with a wired solution that has an inline mic, but it doesn't sound great. But it is going to sound better than the mic on your controller. The Pulse Audio headset has a built-in microphone as well. Sony opted to go with a hidden mic that doesn't actually extend, so it is still pretty far from your mouth and it makes you feel far away. That being said, it's pretty impressive that it sounds as good as it does, seeing as how it's not on an arm. Of all of them, the SteelSeries sounds the best, but that's not a huge surprise. It has a retractable mic that you can get close to your mouth. And that's the thing that matters more than anything else when you're using a microphone, is how close can you get it to the sound source. Now, when it comes to the headsets, it's hard to worry about battery life here because your limiting factor is actually going to be the PSVR 2 controllers. They have a terrible battery life. On top of that, I'm still getting my VR legs and I'm not spending hours upon hours in my headset, so I haven't really had to worry about the battery. I will say that, of course, the Audio-Technica and the earbuds from the PSVR 2 don't have to worry about batteries at all because they're not powered. The SteelSeries does have a battery as it's wireless, but it also has a little base station that allows you to hot swap out your batteries in just seconds. It also comes with an extra battery, so you'll always have one charging in the base station. Literally, the most time that you'll have to worry about your battery is about 3 seconds as you pop the cover off, swap the batteries, and put the magnetic cover right back on. The Pulse Audio headset charges via USB-C. Sony says it'll last about 12 hours on a single charge, so it's definitely long enough that you could charge it every couple of days, or if you're hardcore, plug it in every night. But of all of the charging solutions, this one's definitely the worst. Now, each one of these headsets has a few features that the other ones don't actually have, so I just wanted to talk about those real quick. The Audio-Technica headset comes with some extra cords, that's also foldable, and it works with anything that accepts a 3.5 jack. The SteelSeries can also connect to a Bluetooth device at the same time, so you can be on a phone call with somebody while you're playing a game, and you can actually hear them both. It's really cool. Sony's Pulse Audio has a dedicated chat mix rocker, which allows you to dial in exactly how loud your teammates are if you're playing a game in VR together versus your game audio. This is clutch because I cannot tell you how many times I've been on a Discord call or something with somebody and I can't quite make out what they're saying over my game audio, and I have to try and fiddle with it in order to get it right. It takes you right out of the game. So at the end of the day, the question is, do you need to have Sony's Pulse 3D audio with your PSVR 2? And the answer is I don't think so. But in terms of comfort, price, and features, I think it's probably the best bet, especially if you don't already have some other headphones to use with the PSVR. But I will say the included earbuds just aren't good enough, and you should definitely switch to something better if you want to have a more immersive experience. But what do you guys think? Which is your favorite headset? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you start your comment with audio and a heart, I will favorite your comment as a thank you for watching all the way to the end. And speaking of thanks, big thank you to our sponsor for supporting the NerdNest. From the NerdNest, I'm Bill. Stay rad, everybody.